first episode of a People by People podcast in 2021. Who would have thought that we would have started off the year with another lockdown? I think we could possibly have predicted that given the ups and downs prior to Christmas and then this new strain evolving over the last number of weeks. But this is another solo episode. I wanted to say Happy New Year to you all. I hope you managed to have some chill out time, some quiet time over the Christmas period. I know it's not easy. To fully zone out and switch off when people are in tenterhooks about work and about jobs and about family and about health, and it is a worrying time for people, but I do hope you managed to have some amount of time to chill out. And for those of you that had COVID over the Christmas break, I hope that you're now recovered and that you are feeling good about the year ahead, and well, as good as you can be. So lockdown again, wow. First thing that I've started to see as a trend, which is quicker off the mark than usual for our industry, which is great, is the call out for people to get in touch with other people, to what do you want to see happen? Communities are coming together, and I think that's brilliant. I just want to kind of let you know that PRs Unite, which is I suppose it's bi-weekly hangout on Zoom for global PR and communication professionals at all levels. It doesn't matter if you're already part of the PR Fest community, if you know me personally or know somebody else, you're all welcome to join. And it's basically a hangout to talk about where you're at with stuff, what your challenges are, how we can help you overcome that. Occasionally there's a guest that comes along and speaks. Occasionally there is a sort of learning elements to it as well. And it'd be good to keep that going. So on the Wednesday the 13th and Wednesday the 27th of January, this month obviously, at 3 p.m, if you want to get in touch with me, drop me an email, laura@aura-pr.com, and I'll be able to send you the login details for that. It's recurring. So that's kind of first off. Happy New Year and lockdown. What's happening this year? So as you know probably that I'm the chair of the PRCA in Scotland, and we have our first committee meeting this week. At the tail end of last year, 2 new vice chairs were appointed to the Scotland committee, and I'm delighted to welcome Thomas and Angela as my vice chairs. We will be working on a plan collaboratively with the Next Gen group, because I really feel it's important that the Next Generation group and our main committee work together and alongside each other on our events and activities to make sure that not only what we're doing is aligned, but also it's really maximum benefit to members, and also hopefully attracting some new members as well, because it's so important to keep up with professional development and keep on evolving. So that's this week. I'm also involved in a working group with the PRCA, essentially around COP26, which is happening in Glasgow in November this year. And I was involved with Scotland's 2020 climate group for a couple of years, a few years back, and basically I ran all their communication, their stakeholder engagement, and worked alongside them to work with the Scottish Government on the activity we'd planned, plus all the partners and organisations across Scotland. So some of them were business groups and organisations, and some of them were public sector and third sector. But this kind of presents an opportunity for COP, the climate crisis, especially for us in communication and public relations, to be talking more about how to sustainably communicate and how to communicate sustainability. But not only that, it's all this stuff we're talking about right now that really matters around ethics, misinformation, disinformation, and the ethics of what government is saying, what organisations are saying, and also as well, one thing that I'm kind of quite passionate about is using plain English so that people really understand what the climate emergency is. And I think it's obviously been around for a long time that people are saying it's either true or not true. You have some presidents, for example, who talk utter nonsense about their thoughts on it. But then you have scientific evidence, you have proof, you have, Sir David Attenborough, who presents and actually calls upon the people of the world basically to sit up. You have Greta, who travels the world talking about it passionately and has the data and evidence to support it. So it's not something we can any longer ignore. It's something that we all have to be thinking about within our businesses and our organisations, and how we act responsibly, and how we have a resilient and sustainable future. So that's a really interesting working group I'm involved in just now, and we have our first call of the year next week. So I'm looking forward to kicking things off there. I'll talk more about that when I can. How is my year shaping up? Well, sadly, some more business dropped off earlier this week. That was basically due to lockdown continuing, and some of the work which was a priority is now not a priority and has been put on hold. So hopefully it means that I can do some of that work later on in the year, but sadly it means that it's dropped off when I had planned in the last few months for it to be taking place. So that's not necessarily great. However, my mentoring with private clients is going well. I have my first of the year tomorrow, which is Wednesday when this podcast is going out, and I'm looking forward to chatting to one of my mentees. She's been really overhauling her entire agency as a result of the work we've been doing last year. I'm looking forward to seeing how we're going to take that forward and what sort of other support she might need in doing that. Obviously my relaunch out of lockdown plan, which I had drawn up in April last year, launched in April and relaunched in May, is still 100% there for businesses of all different shapes and sizes to be able to use as a process to basically manage communication just now effectively, maintain reputation, keep building and maintaining those relationships. And when we're ready to relaunch out of lockdown, then the plan is set and everything's there ready to go. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other clients I might be able to work with on those plans in the coming weeks and months. And that goes as well for SMEs, because I do have some rather big clients, but equally I have some smaller clients, and I think sometimes smaller clients feel or even smaller businesses generally, like SMEs, they feel kind of slightly helpless sometimes, and they resort to communities and networks to ask for advice, which is great. But equally, I think that sometimes public relations is perceived as a professional support tool which is out of reach for small businesses who basically think they can't afford it. And I think that realistically you have to then talk about the value of what that public relations and strategic thinking is going to bring to the business in the first place, because certainly from the work that I've been doing in the last year throughout the lockdown situation, and developing products, services for clients during this period of time, as well as revisiting all channels and doing audits on websites and all that type of stuff, and getting email databases up to date and rethinking everything. It definitely is something that SMEs should be considering, because if you want like a sort of pick and choose menu to start with, something that's affordable, then that is there for you. It's just a case of having that conversation to start with about what it is you're looking for, what your budget is, and what you're hoping to achieve. And then realistically, someone like me could go away and write a proposal for you, a rough proposal on what to expect, the timescales involved. And then if you were happy with that, they would go away and do it. I do really think that, people have learned over the last, I suppose, how many lockdowns have we had really? first lockdown was in March, obviously. This is a lockdown, but in Scotland it's not as strict as the one in March. We're still allowed to see people in gardens, we're allowed to exercise as long as we want, etc. So there are, I suppose, more flexibilities this time round. Anyway, that's by the by. But I suppose it's horses for courses. Like, what are your businesses doing? What are the audiences, target markets of your business doing? How are they changing? How are they adapting? And how does your business need to ebb and flow to change with that? Um, and then yeah, it's it's a really strange time to be alive. Yeah, it's been I kind of, obviously I think I expected it from a couple months ago that January would be a lockdown. I think that was kind of predictable. What I kind of, I suppose, was more frustrated at was the fact that Scotland was given 5 days to prepare for kind of locking down, well, not locking down, but going into tier 4 after Christmas. And realistically, where I live in Glasgow, I've been in tier 4 pretty much since September. So restaurants have hardly been open. And I think we maybe had a 2-3 week period when they were. And when they were open, people still weren't really that kind of excited to be out and about, because I think people were just nervous about it. Hospitality industry, obviously is being hard hit big time. In fact, today I saw sadly that a few of my favourite little independent business restaurants in Glasgow had been broken into last night, and their tills were being stolen. And it just kind of shows a sign of desperate times that people are acting in that way. And it's just such a shame. It's heartbreaking for the businesses that are being affected by it. However, we have to be able to think positively and put our brains in a space where we digest what's happening, and then we can plan and think about going forward. And I think it's important that you have your own network, whether it's people in your own industries or whether it's your peers, whether it's your family, your friends, that you have that sort of network there to talk to people, to ask questions, and to event frustrations as well. I think that's equally as important. But yeah, I think this year is going to be a really strange one, and the vaccine, which is on everybody's lips at the moment, people just want it to hurry up and get rolled out, but obviously there are challenges that come with that. I just hope that the UK government gets its communications sorted, stops, making mistakes, like obvious mistakes, and starts to really be realistic about what's happening in society, understanding what people are going through. I mean, yeah, it's televised fake cryings of Matt Hancock, for example, does not help build trust and build relationships with the public. People just get angry. People just get angry about it. I think Nicola Sturgeon's done a really brilliant job of being very clear in her communication, building on facts and data from her point of view. But as I said to my mum, actually, when we were talking about it, my mum finds this very difficult to understand and comprehend, why it's okay to be able to have Christmas Eve lunch in a restaurant with your family, but then only be able to see one part of your family the next day, or going forward in your own bubble. She finds it really difficult to understand, and I said, well, I think the best thing to do is try not to overanalyze things and just accept that rules are rules and you need to follow the rules. Even I find it difficult sometimes to follow rationales and why things are happening. Anyway, that's a very different start to the year than I'd hoped to kick off with on the podcast. But yeah, welcome to the People by People podcast. If you're new to listening, I hope that you can go back and listen to some of the episodes over the last year and a half, because there's been some really great conversations around public relations, business, diversity and inclusion. you know, skills, CPD, lots of different stuff. And this year I'm kicking off with an interview launching next week with Simon Francis, and we're talking about social impact, and that's a really good interview to tune into. So don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you have listened to it and you enjoyed it, please do leave a review, because reviews are fantastic for other people to have a quick flick through and have a flavour of what's going on. And also, if you have any suggestions for topics for me, please get in touch. And also, if you want to be a guest, I would love to hear from you. I love chatting to people about all sorts of different things. There's no specific pattern to what's happening, other than yeah, what kind of comes into my line of thinking, I suppose, and what I'm doing at work, and what comes up in the industry. I try not to make it too like other podcast shows, because that can get a bit boring. I'm certainly not part of the polished podcast crew. Mine's fairly rough and ready, but I kind of feel that that's what people appreciate and enjoy. Anyway, listen, I want to wish you a very awesome 2021. Make it healthy, make it happy, and make it prosperous. And please know that if you want to chat to me about anything, whether it's business related, non-business related, whether you need support in some area, or you just want a blather with somebody, then please do reach out. I'm here. But if for those of you who are coming to PR's Unite, I will see you on Wednesday the 13th, or Wednesday the 27th of, I was going to say September, of January. Fast forward 9 months, I think. Anyway, have a great year, and I will speak to you all very soon.